I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. But when Dana's phone buzzed across the counter, and I saw that reservation pop up on her screen, something in me just stopped. Table for two confirmed at Le Mercier. 8 p.m. Friday. Private booth. I froze. Le Mercier. The place we always talked about going but never did. Too fancy, too expensive, always something more practical to spend the money on. It was our running joke. Someday, when the kids are off to college. Someday. But there it was, not a dream, not a plan, a reality. Just not for me. My name's Ron. I'm 48. Been married to Dana for 19 years. We live in a suburb outside Raleigh, North Carolina. 2 kids, both in high school. Matching silver SUVs, a gas grill in the backyard. Photos of the Outer Banks taped to the fridge from our last family vacation. From the outside, we look like we have it all figured out. She works in communications at a healthcare nonprofit. I'm in logistics, same firm the last 12 years. Not flashy, but steady. That's always been my role. The steady one. That Tuesday night, Dana was in the shower. I was cleaning up after dinner. I wasn't the jealous type. Never had been. She had guy friends. I never batted an eye. But that message on her screen, the one with the heart emoji, hit different. Le Mercier wasn't just any place. It was our place. Or at least, it was supposed to be. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was making a surprise reservation for us. Maybe she asked for a private booth because she wanted to do something special. But even as I tried to talk myself down, my chest tightened. She never mentioned anything about Friday. No date night. No babysitter for the kids. No hints. Just her usual, we should try to catch up on that Netflix show this weekend. And the heart emoji. That damn little red heart. Floating next to a sentence that felt like a punch to the gut. She came out of the shower, towel wrapped around her hair, humming like nothing was off. I watched her walk across the kitchen, grab a glass of water, and kiss me on the cheek before heading upstairs to check on the kids. Like it was any other night. I stared at the spot where her phone had been, and I knew. Deep down, I knew. It wasn't for me. I didn't say anything right then. Just stood there in my own kitchen, hands still wet from the dishes, feeling like a man watching a crack form in the middle of his foundation. Something small but deep. Something you pretend won't get worse, even as it slowly splits everything apart. The thing is, Dana never changed the password on her phone. Still our son's birthday month, day, year. I remember setting it up for her years ago, back when she couldn't figure out how to turn on the flashlight. It never occurred to her to change it. Probably never thought I'd have a reason to look. But I did. That night, after she went to sleep, I lay there in bed, listening to her breathing next to me, steady and soft. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about that message, the restaurant, the damn heart emoji. I told myself I just needed to see the name. Just confirm it wasn't for me, and then I don't know, figure out the rest later. So I waited until she rolled over, slid out of bed like a ghost. Her phone was still on the kitchen counter. It opened on the first try. I wish I could say I was surprised that the messages caught me off guard. But the second I saw the name Kyle in her texts, it was like my stomach dropped out. Kyle Reynolds. I knew the name. He worked with her media team at the nonprofit. Met him once at a holiday party. He shook my hand like I was someone's boring uncle. Polite, forgettable. The guy who brings a six-pack and leaves early. Their messages weren't just flirty. They were intimate, real, pet names, inside jokes, photos, late-night confessions about how they wished every weekend could be Seattle again. I scrolled back. They'd been in Seattle for a conference a few months ago. I remember because Dana came home tired but glowing. Told me how exhausting the panels were. Said she barely had time to sleep. Guess I knew why now. There were pictures. The kind people don't usually take with coworkers, her head resting on his shoulder, his hand on her knee. One of them standing outside some market, arms around each other, laughing like it was a honeymoon. I kept scrolling. My hands were shaking, not with rage. With something worse, recognition. She hadn't just cheated. She'd left me a long time ago. Emotionally, she'd been somewhere else for months, maybe years. All that time I thought we were just busy. All those quiet dinners, the silences I filled with talk about the kids or work. She wasn't listening. She was already gone. I closed the phone, placed it back exactly how I found it. Then I stood in the middle of my kitchen, staring at nothing. I wasn't mad. I wasn't crying. I just felt hollow, like I'd walked into someone else's life and realized I didn't have a role in it anymore. I had been steady, dependable, the guy who kept the house running and the bills paid. And somewhere along the way, she stopped seeing me, stopped needing me, and started loving someone else. I didn't say a word. Not the next day. Not that night. Not even when she kissed me goodbye Friday morning and said, "Don't forget the trash goes out today." I nodded, kissed her back, told her to bring a jacket since the forecast said rain. She smiled and walked out like we were still the couple everyone thought we were. But I knew, and I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to throw things or beg or scream. That wasn't my style. Never had been. I've always been more of a quiet observer, someone who gathers all the facts before making a move. That afternoon, I called off work, told my manager I had a stomach bug. I didn't. I had work to do, just not the kind he'd understand. First, I sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop and typed in the name, Kyle Reynolds. Didn't take long. LinkedIn, Senior Communications Manager, same nonprofit Dana worked for. Age 38, single dad. Then Instagram, then Facebook. He posted like a man trying to prove something. Fitness selfies, photos of girl dad, adventures, latte art. You know the type. Then I found her. Rachel Reynolds. His ex. Still had his last name. And more importantly, she hadn't scrubbed him from her profile. There were photos of their daughter, birthday parties, a piano recital, camping trips, all from the last few years. But no recent pictures of Kyle. Just captions that hinted at something broken. I clicked message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. I didn't know what I was going to say until I typed it. Hi Rachel. I believe we share a connection. I think we need to talk, woman to woman. I stared at the screen for a long time after I had sent. Didn't take her long to reply. Do you mean Kyle? I typed back. Yes. And Dana, my wife. She didn't respond for almost an hour. I figured maybe she was reeling. I sure as hell was. Then finally, you want to talk tonight? We agreed on a time. She suggested a phone call, but I said no. Let's meet. Public place. Safe. She chose a coffee shop near downtown, one with plenty of foot traffic and not a lot of shadows. When I got there, she was already waiting. Mid-30s, jeans and a North Face jacket, no makeup. She looked tired but sharp, like someone who didn't have time for bull. Ron, she asked when I walked up. Rachel. We shook hands like we were strangers meeting for a Craigslist sale. I sat down, ordered coffee I didn't want. She didn't waste time. I've been suspicious of his weekend trips, she said, stirring her tea. He says he's at conferences, but he's always vague. Never brings back anything. I nodded. Dana said she was going to Seattle for a panel. They stayed an extra day. Rachel didn't blink. Yeah, I found receipts once. Hotel bar charges for 2 people. We sat there for nearly an hour, trading details, timelines, stories, confirmation after confirmation. By the time we finished, there was no doubt. They weren't just cheating. They built a second life. But that was okay, because now, Rachel and I had a plan. Le Mercier wasn't the kind of place you just walked into last minute, but I called in a favor. The maitre d' recognized my voice. I'd helped his brother get a logistics job last year. I told him I needed a booth for 2. Friday. Discreet. Right next to a reservation under the name Kyle Reynolds. Same booth section? Right next to it, I said. Close enough to hear every word. He paused, then said, got it. Done. I texted Rachel. We're on. Dress nice, but nothing flashy. Just sharp enough to look like you belong. I'll handle the rest. Friday night. I pulled the charcoal blazer out of the back of my closet. The one Dana said made me look too serious for family parties. Perfect. Rachel met me in the parking lot at 7:45. She wore a navy blue dress, hair pulled back, simple earrings. She looked like she had a purpose because she did. You ready? I asked. She didn't smile. Let's do this. We were seated first. Booth tucked in the corner. Candlelight. Thick linens. A bottle of red already breathing. We made small talk. Careers. Kids. Vacations we didn't get to take. Just enough to pass as 2 people on a quiet date. At exactly 8:03, they walked in. Dana's laugh hit me before I saw her. Hi, Breathy. The kind she used to save for when we first started dating. Then I saw them. Kyle had his hand on her lower back as they approached the hostess. Dana wore a black dress I didn't recognize. Low cut. Lipstick. He leaned in and said something that made her tilt her head and laugh again. I hadn't seen that laugh in years. Not from her. Not from me. Rachel saw them too. Her jaw tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. She leaned across the table and said, he always uses that move, hand on the back. Whisper something, wait for the laugh. Dana and Kyle were seated in the booth directly beside ours. Back to back. Just inches away. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. Rachel and I kept talking, sipping our wine like nothing was wrong. But every word from their booth filtered over like static through drywall. Kyle, this place is even better than the reviews. Dana, you always find the best spots. Kyle, just wait till dessert. Then came the moment. I turned just slightly, enough to catch a glimpse. Kyle reached across the table and took Dana's hand. Lifted it, kissed it. Not quick, not subtle. Dana giggled. Then she looked up and saw me. Her smile froze. At first, I think her brain refused to register what she was seeing, like I was a ghost from another room. Her eyes scanned my face, then Rachel's, then back to me. She went pale. Kyle noticed her expression and turned. And there it was. The moment. The exact second when fantasy collided with reality. When the booth, the wine, the affair, all of it, cracked wide open. Rachel leaned in close to me, her voice soft, but steady. Think they figured out this isn't a coincidence? I smirked. Oh yeah, I said, setting down my wine glass. They're just realizing the night's not over. It's just getting started. I stood up slow. Didn't rush it. Didn't storm. Just slid out of the booth like I was getting up to stretch. Rachel followed a half-second later, calm as ever, her heels clicking softly against the tile. I walked over to their table and slid into the booth, right across from Kyle, without asking. Rachel sat beside me. Dana's eyes were wide. She looked like she couldn't breathe. Kyle looked like he was trying to calculate whether to fight or flee. Hope the risotto's worth it, I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Dana opened her mouth, closed it again. Her napkin trembled in her hand. Kyle cleared his throat, straightened his shoulders. This is private. Rachel leaned in slightly, her voice quiet and razor-sharp. Oh, I agree. Private's the word. All right. Like your hotel rooms in Seattle. Or that cute little nickname you gave her in your texts. Moonlight. That was creative. Kyle froze. Dana turned to him, stunned. You told her. He blinked. I didn't. No. I cut in. I did. I set my phone on the table. Opened the screen to a photo, the one of them at Pike Place Market. Arms around each other. Smiles too close, too familiar. Dana's hand flew to her mouth. The couple in the next booth had paused mid-bite. Forks hovering. Eyes locked on us. You know, I continued. I never understood why Le Mercier was so important to you. Until now. You wanted to finally try it. Just not with your husband. Rachel smiled politely. Same for me, actually. Kyle always said it was too pricey. Funny what changes when you're trying to impress someone else's wife. Kyle shifted in his seat. This isn't the time or place. Oh, I think it's the perfect time, Rachel said, folding her hands neatly. You brought her here to pretend, to play house. But here's the thing, Kyle, your daughter asked where you were tonight. I told her the truth, just like you always tell me. Dana's voice cracked. Ron, I can explain. No, I said, looking at her. You really can't. She tried to say something else, but I cut her off with a shake of my head. I packed your suitcase this afternoon, I said, keeping my tone level. It's by the front door. Locks have been changed. Garage opener doesn't work anymore. She gasped. I've been your husband for 19 years, I said. I'm not going to beg for a seat at this table. Kyle looked down, like maybe if he avoided eye contact long enough, the world would reset. I turned to him. As for you, I hope you enjoyed your wine. It's the last round you'll be drinking on the quiet. Rachel slid a folded envelope across the table. This has everything your supervisor should know about your recent travel expenses, including the dates you claimed were work-related. Kyle's face dropped. I stood up. Rachel followed. Dana whispered, please, but I didn't answer. I just looked at her, looked right through her, and walked out of that candlelit booth like I was leaving a theater after a bad play. Let them sit there. Let them stew in the silence. That was the first honest moment they'd had in months. The parking lot was cold, not just from the weather, though the spring air still carried a chill, but from the quiet. Rachel stood beside me, arms folded. Her eyes glistened a little, but she wasn't crying. She looked satisfied, worn out, but free. I should have done this years ago, she said softly. God, I feel like I can finally breathe. I nodded. Same. We didn't hug, didn't say much else. She gave me a small smile, then turned and walked to her car. I stood there a minute longer, watching the lights from the restaurant glow in the distance like a stage curtain falling. When I got home, the house was still. Her car wasn't in the driveway. I'd changed the locks before I ever left. Her suitcase sat neatly by the door, just like I said. She hadn't come back yet. I figured she would stay at a hotel. Or maybe with Kyle, though after the way Rachel delivered those expense reports, he might be sleeping in his car by Monday. I went upstairs, took a shower, got into bed. It was the first time in months I didn't lie there wondering where she was, or why she was late, or who she was texting in the bathroom. Just silence, just stillness. And it wasn't painful. It was honest. The sheets felt colder without her, sure, but they were clean, mine, real. I slept like a rock. The next morning, I woke up to a text from her. Dana, can we talk? I stared at it for a full minute, then put the phone down. No reply. A few hours later, I got a message from Rachel. Rachel, just heard from a friend at the nonprofit. Kyle's been let go. They're calling it a restructure, but yeah, I didn't reply to that either. Didn't need to. I spent the rest of the day cleaning out the garage, threw away old paint cans, sorted through a drawer of mismatched extension cords and chargers, put on an old playlist I hadn't touched since before things started falling apart. Songs we used to cook to, dance to, laugh to. It didn't make me sad. It just reminded me that I had a life before this, and I'd have one after. By sundown, the house was still empty, peaceful. For once, I wasn't waiting for anything. Not an apology, not an explanation, just stillness. And that was enough. Filing for divorce wasn't dramatic. I met with a lawyer I found online, sat in a quiet office with a bowl of peppermint candies on the table, and explained the situation. She barely blinked. Said I wasn't the first guy to walk in with screenshots and a packed suitcase in the same week. Dana didn't contest anything. Not the house. Not the cars. Not even the dog, though. If I'm being honest, she barely liked him anyway. The papers were signed in under a month. Word got out fast. Dana's friends, the wine club crowd, the book group she never read books for, started pulling back. It was like watching her support system evaporate, one polite silence at a time. Nobody wanted to be tied to the scandal, especially not once Kyle's name got involved. Especially not after he got let go. Rachel and I kept in touch. Nothing crazy. A few texts at first, then a call here and there. A photo of her daughter's art project. A recommendation for a coffee place near her office. Just small things. Real things. One Sunday morning, about 3 months after the dinner, she called me out of the blue. Hey, she said. I'm hiking Bear Creek with Ellie. You want to come? I paused. I hadn't been on a trail in years. Dana hated anything with dirt. But I found myself saying, yeah, I'll meet you there in 20. The air smelled like pine and spring dust. Her daughter ran ahead of us, hair bouncing in a ponytail, collecting sticks like treasure. Rachel walked beside me, water bottle slung over her shoulder. You look lighter, she said after a while. I feel it, I admitted. We didn't talk about Dana, or Kyle, or the mess. Just walked. Talked about childhood vacations, favorite breakfasts, what kind of music made long drives bearable. When we reached the ridge, we sat down on a flat rock. Ellie was busy building something out of twigs nearby. Rachel looked at me, then said it. I've been thinking about moving back to Oregon. I blinked. Yeah, my sister's there. Cheaper rent. Good schools. I nodded, keeping my face steady. Makes sense. She looked at me carefully. But I want to stay in touch. I smiled. I like that. And I meant it. It wasn't some rom-com ending. We didn't kiss under the trees or promise to run away together. It was something smaller. Better. It was honest. And after everything I'd been through, that was enough. That night, I drove home with my windows down. No plans. No timelines. Just quiet music and the slow realization that this strange, honest quiet might be the start of something real. It's been a year now. I live in a condo just outside of Durham, 2 bedrooms, laminate floors, nothing fancy. It's close to the warehouse I transferred to. I start early, finish early, and sometimes on the drive home, I stop at the park and just sit with a cup of gas station coffee. No one waiting. No one demanding answers. The quiet used to scare me. Now, I count on it. Dana moved in with her sister after the divorce. I haven't seen her since the papers were finalized. No more, can we talk? Texts. No apologies. No explanations. Just gone. Fine by me. The house we raised our kids in? Sold. She didn't want it. I didn't either. It was full of ghosts. The kids are okay. That part was hard. I won't lie. They were angry at first. Confused. But they saw more than I realized. Heard the silences. Watched the distance. I told them the truth in a way they could understand. That sometimes people make choices that can't be undone. That love isn't a guarantee. But that none of it, not a single ounce, was their fault. I still drop them off at school a couple times a week. We have pizza Fridays and lazy Sundays with old movies and too much popcorn. They're what keep me grounded. Last month, I ran into Rachel again, by chance. I was at a coffee shop near downtown, grabbing something on my lunch break. She walked in with a grocery bag and a scarf wrapped tight around her neck. Looked exactly the same, only more at ease. She saw me before I saw her. Ron, she said, like the name was a question and a smile at once. We sat down, talked for almost 2 hours. About work, her daughter, my kids, stupid things like property taxes and how expensive avocados have gotten. It felt like slipping back into something warm. Before we left, she hugged me. Not a long one. Not romantic. Just real. She pulled back and looked me in the eye. You're a good man, Ron, she said. Don't forget that. I didn't know how much I needed to hear that until she said it. 2 weeks later, I got a message from her. Rachel, I'm moving back. Permanently. Let's get coffee soon? I stared at the screen for a second, then typed. Me. Absolutely. I don't know what's next. I'm not making plans. I'm not chasing some dramatic new chapter. All I know is, I'm finally living a life where the truth is enough. No pretending. No performing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the kind of beginning I've been waiting for all along.